Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of council of November 5th. It being 7 p.m., I call the meeting to order. Council, we have the agenda papers in front of us. We do have one change that I'm aware of for the, declarations of conflict. Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I'm declaring a conflict for 5.1. This is a family neighbor. I basically partly grew up in this household, so I think it's too close for me to be involved. And I'm declaring a conflict on 5.2 because I'm still part of the marketing team for Trail Bay Mall.
Thank you. Anybody else got any conflicts to declare? If not, then the agenda is before us for adoption with the delegation is asked to go to our next council meeting, I believe, on the 19th. So we do not have item 4.1. So with that change, anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion as amended. Second one. All in favor? Carried. And thanks for coming. Okay, so we go to item 5.1 on page 4 of our agenda package. And I guess, Mr. Nyhus, is there anything you want to add to your report, or we do need your microphone for you if you're going to speak? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's nothing more to add, just that there were a total of 8 bylaw notices that were issued for this particular building bylaw violation, and we stand here now before you.
Very good. Okay, thank you. I understand we have the owner with us, and Mr. Demeter, if you'd like to come up and I would let everybody know that we've received comments in writing, but sir, you're welcome to present them to us.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. My name is Rick Demeter. I'm the owner of 6167 Stockwell Road, where I've resided since 1992. This property is located in an established neighborhood that predates the formation of the District of Sechelt. I am writing to provide context on an ongoing bylaw matter and to respectfully request consideration of option 2, background and initial intent. The structure in question was constructed as a temporary porch to accommodate my daughter and her family during the COVID-19 crisis, providing improved living conditions until they could secure alternative housing. No shipping containers were added to the property after the issuance of the stop work order, as was stated in that statement from Mr. Nyhus. The permit process and bylaw notices while navigating, okay, what's happened here?
No, it's okay. Just take a...
Well, navigating, anyway, after the stop work order, somehow my notes look a little muddled here. So I was trying to work my way through the permitting process. And while I was doing that, I was receiving bylaw notices, just boom, 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 until we reached a level of 8. And I was trying to submit the required drawings and information, and I kept getting these notices. After I received the first notice, I actually came to the office here to pay it and to get information what to do. And a second notice arrived within days of the first. And these notices were issued during my active compliance efforts. And they were adding a lot of stress to my life because I was trying to work my way through the system. And I don't know if any of you here have ever tried using that cloud permit system, or if anybody uses it on a daily basis, maybe then it works. But for a guy like myself, I'm quite computer literate. I had a really hard time getting anything to go into the system. And I requested some assistance in that. And there was a couple people in the office that were pretty good at it. We managed to get them in. Following the submission of the requested materials, I was advised to obtain a full property survey, which is not a cheap thing. And my neighbors on either side of me had just already done property surveys. So I thought this was a little odd, but it was like part of the process. It cost me $1,500. And during the survey, they found there was an existing 8-foot by 40-foot aluminum shipping container along one property line on the property. They also discovered that I have an above-ground swimming pool that had been there the shipping container had been there for about 10 years, the swimming pool about 8 years. The swimming pool has an attached deck. So the building inspector required compliance by putting in a perimeter fence, which fortunately I had most of the property was fenced, including self-closing gates, secure from the outside for the pool. The bylaws also necessitated an engineered anchoring system and foundations for the shipping container based on whatever the sea salt bylaws are. I got received copies of all these bylaws. And so a shipping container that's been sitting on the ground for 10 years has to be now put on a foundation and then anchored down. So when I checked into that to get a engineer, because it all has to be engineered, that was going to cost me anywhere between $1,500 and $1,800. So then I had to get permits for each of these items that were now discovered because of the survey, right? And so the pool, I worked with John Larson, and he did come through and actually do approval on my fence in the pool. So I think that one was dealt with, but it was a real process getting my drawings and all the information about my pool and about my fences and how it was going to be. But I think we got that one settled. Then the shipping container requiring all the full plans of anchoring, siding, roofing, everything to conceal the fact that it's a shipping container. I was going to be looking at anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000 plus the engineering fees. So these requirements were being applied to what I consider a temporary and portable structure. It was just costing too much money. I was further instructed to complete the pool fencing container modifications before addressing the original accessory building. So the building that started out in question, which was visible from the street, which was actually just a little porch that had been set up against a was the destination style of travel trailer that my daughter was living in temporarily. This porch was what started all. We've never even addressed any of that in the midst of all of this other stuff because all these other things came up and my costs were getting out of control. So in February, John Larson called me and said, like, you got to deal with this stuff. And I just said, you know what, like, I'm so frustrated. I'm just going to sell this shipping container. I'm going to tear the little building down, or we'll cut it in half and we're going to take half of it to my son-in-law's place because now they've got some property and we'll leave this one here or whatever. And we'll just kind of clean the whole thing up. Well, then he says, no, our goodwill has been exhausted. And now the whole matter will be escalated and pushed up to where we are today. And so my perception of all of this is that there's nothing unsafe. There's no issues that pose any risks as what this letter may suggest. The pool area is dealt with. The perimeter is safe. There's nobody can come in there and drown. There's nothing that the shipping container can do that will harm anyone. There's nothing to really, and as far as this little structure is concerned, my latest plan is probably just to cut it in half till it becomes 2 8x10s. But I can't really talk to anybody about it because the whole process has been shut down, as of after they said it's enough is enough. So I respectfully request that the council vote in favor of option 2, deny the request for authorization. This approach would address potential overreach in enforcing current bylaws on pre-existing properties in legacy neighborhoods like my own. I suggest exploring variances, which is something that we worked with back in 1992, 1993, when we ran into situations like this, and work towards tailored solutions for long-term residents while applying full standards to new construction. Thank you for your time and consideration. And if anybody would like to discuss this further, more details, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, council. Turn it over to you. Let's see, Councillor Shepherd first, then Councillor Inkster.
Thanks, through the chair. The problem is that we only got this letter today, like when we walked into the room. And thank you very much, Mr. Demeter, for explaining all the background, which is really helpful because it's easier to make a decision black and white when you just have a recommendation in front of you. it's harder when you sort of get to know the background, so that's really helpful. I don't know, if Mr. Demeter is moving towards just removing those structures, I guess I'd lean towards giving Mr. Demeter more time to do that. I'm not actually in favor of choosing the option 2 because, Mr. Demeter, we have so many people who just tell us, are you enforcing the bylaws or not? Because that's your job when you get elected, to enforce the bylaws. So, to agree to sort of make this a legacy or grandfather it in, then we'll have everyone doing that. And I'm not sure that's the right way to go, but that's my
Okay.
comments now.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Inkster.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm familiar with this neighborhood and I'm familiar with many of the people live in this neighborhood and I'm familiar with the Demeters. I'm not comfortable with the process as it stands. I'm not going to be supporting any further action. I think that we should work with the family. I've known the family, as I just mentioned, for a number of years and I think they have integrity and I think a number of the neighbors are supportive of their approach and I think we should be working with them from the district to try to work with the plan that they propose to make the changes that our staff has recommended. I understand what's being said by some in the community about enforcement, but this is in a very secluded area of Seashelt and I don't think it does much for communityness in that neighborhood to come down hard on this individual. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you through the chair. When I look at our bylaws and such, I don't really favor any neighborhood or any family. I think they should be applied to everyone. I have a real beef with all the shipping containers that I see in the village area in particular. Somebody told me they think they counted about 40 of them. And I think they should be addressed and they should be removed, all of them, including this one. But so it's a bigger issue than just this property. And I think they're hard to move. But so I would like to see us work with the family to give them an extension of some sort to meet our chief, building officials' requirements. But, COVID, trying to accommodate people, trying to, and then I haven't had surveys and stuff because I know they're expensive. And people put up fences all the time without surveys. And so I think it's worth giving them another chance to maybe not deny this, but put a time frame on when it can be resolved. And then, what will follow is that we will have to go through whatever is required. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Bell.
Yes, I'm also going to support giving more time. I think that the feeling is I feel that there is a desire here from the applicant, from the community member to do his best under the circumstances. And so I'd like to suggest more time. I think we need to have a timeline coming away from this. I'm not in support of number 2. I think we have to stay strong on our bylaws. If we get into making exceptions, then we end up in a very, very slippery slope. So thank you.
Can I clarify maybe with Mr. Nyhus? We've got a bylaw, but does it apply to legacy situations? And if it's a yes or no, I could say it into the microphone for you, but no, we don't have a bylaw that covers legacy, in this case, containers. Okay, thank you. Counselor Shepherd.
Thanks. Through the chair. So to Councilors McLaughlin and Inkster, what's a reasonable time frame here if council's to agree to?
Okay, I'll hold that for a moment and go to Counselor Rowe.
Through you to the resident, I was just going to ask, is there still a commitment that he'll verbalize here tonight to remove the shipping containers and demolish the accessory building? And if so, what? The same question
Mhm.
Councillor McLaughlin was going to ask, what time frame does he see
Okay.
that occurring in? Because I think we need to support our bylaws. I don't think that, they need to be applied evenly, whether, we know a family or not. But I also want to try and be reasonable.
Okay, thank you. I'll give you a second to think about that. You know what's coming. For me, I'm curious because the report referenced 2 shipping containers. I'm hearing there's 1. And I'm also hearing that the bylaw, if I'm understanding correctly, doesn't apply to legacy, in this case, containers. You better go.
Thank you, Your Worship. It appears that there is 1 now. The building officials told me that there were 2, but they may have been in error.
Mhm.
The zoning bylaw prohibits shipping containers on residential zone properties. And there are, now I'll qualify that with some things. Bylaw 25 did allow them in some circumstances. And there were situations where building permits were obtained for the shipping containers in the form that they are, as that was permissible under zoning bylaw 25. And those would now be considered legal nonconforming. Anything that did not have some kind of legal acknowledgement, building permit or something like that, for it being present on property, you're under the rules of the new zoning bylaw. When it comes to shipping containers, we look at them from the point of view that they're a robust steel structure that in effect replaces wood frame construction. So they could be used as an accessory building should they conform to the necessary setbacks and actually appear to be a building. And that is put cladding on them and a roof and make them appear not to be an unsightly shipping container in essence. And this is an option that people like Mr. Demeter have been given. So there aren't really any legacy neighborhoods. There's no heritage conservation areas or anything like that in the district. So we apply, as Councillor McLaughlin pointed out, we apply the bylaws evenly across the entire district.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Okay, Mr. Demeter, maybe we'll get you to answer the question of what is it, what are your plans, and press that button, please.
I appreciate your perspectives on this. What I think the point I'm trying to make is that I was accused of putting shipping containers on my property after I was given a stop work order on a structure that I wasn't actually even working on anymore, wasn't in the middle of construction, and it was already basically obsolete. And as far as the shipping container goes, the shipping container in question is basically not visible from anybody, like for anybody driving up and down the street. And this is what I think you need to think about, because I do understand that you're concerned about seeing shipping containers all around town. And I think they are a bit of an eyesore personally. I don't particularly like seeing shipping containers in people's yards, but I think they're being utilized for storage and possibly for moving. So most of them are temporary. My understanding of the bylaws are you can have a shipping container in your yard temporarily. I see several in alleys around Seasheld. I believe they're probably there temporarily. My shipping container, I received it probably 10 years ago. It's aluminum. It blends into the neighborhood. It's up against a bank of trees. My neighbor Erin is here. She has no problem with my container. The container actually isn't an eyesore. It doesn't bother anybody. I did propose just painting it, just to try and deal with it. But the concept of turning it into a building, I may as well go and borrow $50,000 or $100,000 and build a building, right? It is a storage thing. It's nobody's living in it. So anyway, my intention at this point is I want to keep my shipping container, and I would like to do whatever I can to make it so that you guys understand that a shipping container used for storage, and it isn't an eyesore, and it's part of your family or you're part of your property, especially on a property like we have half-acre properties there. At any rate, my intention now is to keep the shipping container and come up with a reasonable way to do it without having to spend $30,000 or $50,000. That's all I have to say.
Okay, just before you go, because the question though is, I think that to remove it and to do all the work that is being contemplated, if that was our decision, how long would that take you to do that? Press that microphone again, please.
If it was to bring it to the full compliance, I would need probably at least a year, right? I think would be
Okay.
reasonable.
Okay, you can leave it on. Oh, okay. All right. And other questions? Does that answer the question, Councillor Rowe or Councillor McLaughlin? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion for option one, sort of. Actually, probably not one, it's probably, help me, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, I'll move recommendation option one, extending the sort of term to allow the owner to remove the structures for 1 year.
Okay. Right, so defer the authorization for 1 year to allow the owner to come into compliance? Okay, is that a second? Thank you. Okay, now okay. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, it's good to see council support some leniency here, like I was saying. I said it in a different way, but I'm not gonna support it, but it's 6s and 9s, right? I mean, council, they support it as community, it's a good community thing to do, support this, so it's just 6s and 9s, but I think that the homeowner has successfully argued for a continuation of the situation. Thanks.
Okay, I've heard 6 and 7, and I don't pretend to know what that means. What does 6 and 9 mean?
It's the same thing.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just support for what I said. So
Okay.
Same thing. Yeah.
All right. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, through the chair, I'm hoping it's clear then if after a year it doesn't happen, that we do go ahead with the kind of the recommendations 1 and 2 and just carry through with our process as recommended. Thank you.
Okay. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, thank you, Mr. Nios. Thank you, Mr. Demeter and friends. Is there anything else that we need on this item, Ms. Paulson? I think we're good. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the DVP for Trail Bay Mall, the signage on page 6. And I think it's fairly clear, lots of pictures. Anybody got any questions for Mr. Allen? Yes, please, Councillor Shepherd.
I have no questions for Director Allen, but I'll move the recommendation 1
Okay.
on page 6.
Great, thank you. And I see a seconder. Discussion, Councillor McLaughlin and then Rowe. Oh, okay.
Yeah, question.
Oh, we do have Mr. Hall with us.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if staff looked at similar signage in Gibson's. I find what's happened is in our malls, we try and create a nice kind of town-like special architectural design, so it looks like it fits in with the community, that's friendly and not really big box. So some of these things in the signage that's here is kind of like big box type signage. So I don't want it to obliterate, you know, the intention of our architectural design by putting up signage that's too big. So if they could just speak to it in terms of perhaps how it compares to similar type things in Gibson's. Is it bigger or smaller?
You think of a specific mall or?
Well, I think there's a similar dollar store in
Sunnycrest?
Crest Mall. And there's a Anytime Fitness, I believe, is in there recently as well. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right, perhaps, Mr. Hall, did you take a look at that?
Sure. No, I didn't look at Town of Gibson's. We did look particularly for the Dollarama sign being sort of the largest proposed sign. We looked at Dollarama stores kind of across Vancouver, looked at the Vancouver and Victoria sign bylaws as well as District of Squamish. So I guess there is a range, obviously, in terms of signs that are permitted and then the way the bylaws works. I guess I will kind of call out our bylaws being rather old. It's only been updated 3 times since 2006. And when we kind of, whether we're looking at sort of Victoria, Vancouver, or even District of Squamish had quite large sign areas for similar signs. I guess we could say that the 3 meter square that we have in our bylaws is quite low. And I think one thing to keep in mind here, there is a difference with the Trail Bay Mall location. The building itself is set quite far back from Cowrie Street. So while we're still thinking about, you know, the pedestrian experience and that, you know, Cowrie Street isn't a major arterial road, the building isn't sited right up front on Cowrie Street. Like there's a huge parking lot in between it and the road. So, you know, in terms of, thinking about the sign increase, you know, there's that factor versus if the building was right up front along the road, in that sense. So I think, you know,
Okay,
where we're
so
kind of,
you didn't look at Gibson's, but you've looked all over the lower
Yeah.
mainland. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, I think the, actually, the dollar store that's similar to this is at the IGA Mall in Gibson's, not necessarily the other one. That's the Dollarama, it's at the IGA Mall. And so that's the comparison we would make in order to do it accurately, and it's a fairly large sign. This, we may need to look at our bylaw. I think it was, I think it's been, council has, in a sense, overruled the bylaw a couple of times, including a number of years ago when the mall wanted to make changes for the pharmacy. And the reason is that in that case, the traffic passing at sometimes too high speeds, going along Torito Street through town, larger signage would let them know that there's some services and some shops that they should stop at instead of going north. So I support allowing larger signs. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. Other discussion? If not, Councillor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I'm not too sure how lit these signs will be. Sometimes if they're backlit or, you know, they can look quite stark at night, which is fine when you're on a highway in Vancouver or whatever, but I just would be concerned that they might just be too overbearing. I can see a lot of work was put into this. And I was just wondering if our planning department has a permit for this, that they pay for this. I wonder how much that permit would have been. Thank you.
they will need a signed permit application. So they haven't submitted that first because we wanted to deal with the variance issue first. If council wasn't going to support the variance, then they need to revise their plan. So, but they will need, even if council supports the variance, they still need a signed permit application for each of these signs. The fees in terms of the signed permit application, it's fairly low. I don't recall offhand what it would be, but
Okay. So it's low. We're not getting rich on this.
Well, we're always looking for ways to pay for our work and to get
Mhm.
some revenues.
Yep.
And I know other places have pretty significant charges they would use for signage for just even the time that you put into all this. And if we're going to take more time to review it, then it's all the more reason to maybe start charging a lot more for that. But, okay, so you think they're fairly close to, well, it's hard to say. If it's Gibson's, I would
Yeah.
just like to know that it's a more of a local, smaller town type size, but
I can,
fits with the
Okay.
architecture that is there, I
Right.
guess. And so that's why the owner probably came with this size, right?
Right, I think that's fair. Okay, I think I'll call the question. That's all right with everybody? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, council. Okay, if anybody, Counselor Toth, are you lurking outside? Because we need him here for the next item. Is he? No, he's not there. Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay. Council, then we will go to page 22. And this is Counselor Toth's notice of motion. Counselor Toth, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think the motion generally speaks for itself. The federal government has indicated that they're interested in looking at potentially surplus lands to help with housing, sort of across the spectrum. And my ask is basically that we reach out to the federal government and invite them here to start that conversation. I don't pretend to think that this is gonna be a, next month sort of solution. But I think that if we can steer it towards seniors housing, some workforce housing, some of the things that we are desperately needing in this community, I think it's a good opportunity to do so. And the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society, I think, is a good partner in this conversation. I did make them aware that, this was coming and they're supportive of the conversation. So I don't think there's any surprises here for anybody. The school district has indicated that they're looking at sort of surplus lands sort of across the region, and it could be a good
Okay.
opportunity for an assembly. So I'll move the
So you
motion
move.
on page 22.
There's a seconder. Okay. Anybody, any discussion? Counselor McLaughlin, please.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I think, in principle, it's not a bad idea. But I think at this point in time, with all the housing projects we have already rezoned and upzoned and all the housing issues we have, I would like to not support this, but postpone the idea for a year or so. Also, I think it's really important to retain commercial property. We just spent a lot of money updating Inlet Avenue. And I think it's a very precious piece of parcels of land. And I can appreciate that we have a kind of a shortage ourselves of land that we can use for projects, but I think it's premature. And I would rather see us focus on the commercial aspects of the potential of that property. Also, I think the idea was that the farmer's market would go there. So who knows what potential could be there for other things. So we're going through the OCP process right now. So I'm very hesitant to support this right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Rowe?
I mean, we all know how fast government works. Let's face it. So we need to have some foresight here. This is years away from actually happening. In my books, there's a lot of moving parts. This would be the beginning of a conversation around having some forethought and planning for the future around land. District of Sechelt, as you know, as we all know, too well, has very little buildable land. And we know that that's resulted in missed opportunities with us to have control over where housing goes,
Right.
whether it's seniors housing or workforce or whatever. If with, the municipalities that can partner with various housing programs, be it BC Housing or BC Builds or whatever, are the ones that are winning in the province. And, I'm not going to be sitting at this table to see any of this come to fruition. But I don't agree that we should put it off. I think we should start the conversation. The conversation itself could take 18 months, right? So I think we need to be looking at opportunities, particularly down where seniors in particular have the easiest access. And if we're concerned about commercial, I think potential to build in commercial on the bottom, which would probably include a post office. That could be part of it. Like there's no grand plan here. The grand plan actually is to not miss an opportunity for the District of Sechelt to end up with some land in a land bank. And
Thanks.
even if it gets used 15 years from now.
Good points. Thank you. And I note the first part of the resolution does reference that it could include a modernized post office. So I think there is some commercial component in here. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, thank you. I like this conversation with the feds, the province, any changes they want to make, the school board, any changes they want to make to grab land for housing for Sechelt. I too see commercial on the bottom, residential up top. Shaw Road's a good example that happened in Gibson's where the municipality had some land for housing. Look what happened down there. Probably 100 families are housed. Look across the street to the post office, Arrowhead. They came to us and said they were going to build a new RCMP station. So we then said, what are you going to do with the old one? And now we have Arrowhead with a number of units and a service for the community that everyone loves. We need to be in on these and ask for that land for ourselves. I was lucky enough to cut the ribbon on Arrowhead a number of years ago. It was a great project and the community still loves it. We need to go after the land that's available because we could have more success stories like that. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Bell.
To the chair, I agree. I'd like to see us continue to explore this. It does take time. I think it's important that we're on the radar in terms of just signaling that this could be an opportunity for us. If we have an opportunity to bring MP Patrick Weiler up, this has been something that's been signaled by the feds as an area that they're interested in looking at in terms of some of this property. The other thing is location. I mean, the location's incredible in terms of, walkable. It's we're talking about adding some vibrancy to the downtown core. These are the kind of things that can help us with part of our strategic vision that we have. So I am of support of starting the process of looking at this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps I'll call the
Oh,
question.
sorry. I could just comment. I think we have lots of other places where we could put apartments right near there. It's not like this is Shaw Road. This is one of our main streets we've invested a lot of money into. It's supposed to be, kind of the pride and joy of this community. And frankly, I think we have other things to do than land bank and be wheeling and dealing with sort of pipe dream projects. I mean, it's already out there. I think we all understand its potential. I don't think we need to start going up this alley. We already have Arrowhead there. Arrowhead is supportive housing, and I think that's enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll call the question, and this is the resolution. It's titled recommendation in our document, but we'll take it as a resolution as presented on page 22. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor McLaughlin is opposed. The motion carries. Thank you, Councillor Toth. So Councillor, we then go to page 24 and the report on the biggest reason everybody's here. Fees and charges bylaw amendments. We did see this at some length in our last committee of the whole meeting. So council, there are some changes as noted in the report. So perhaps we could discuss if you've got any questions on those changes. If not, I think the first item would be to accept the recommendations. And that's a motion. Thank you. Seconded. Okay, so we got that on the floor. Any questions about the different changes itemized on pages, whatever, 23 to 30, thereabouts? No? Yes, Councillor McGullough.
Yeah, I just have some general comments. I think some of the fees for planning and subdivision are very low. And I would like to have them increase quite substantially so that it really helps pay for our planning department's time. They spend a lot of time on these projects. And that means that the money we pay them goes towards development, I think at a huge subsidy. And so, I mean, I'm not going to debate all these numbers now, but I think it's something that we should consider really looking at and
Yep.
getting some revenue really
Okay.
back for all the work that's put into it. And we've spent a lot of time doing these projects in the last 3 years. It's unbelievable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I support the spirit, I think, that you're talking about this, because this is here for kind of administrative updates. I think perhaps you take that away and look at perhaps a notice of motion on the issue that you raised. Okay. Anything else, council? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of the recommendations on page 24? Carried. Then we have to do some actual bylaws. So they start on page 30. This is bylaw 575-17, 2025, and it's before us for 3 readings, if it suits. And seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. And then we jump all the way to page 62, which is bylaw number 52009, 2025. And for 3 readings, it suits. And second, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? 3 readings, carried. Then we go to page 65, which is bylaw number 48005, 2025. And that as well is before us for 3 readings. Anybody would like to move that? Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Rowe seconds. And all in favor? Page 69, this is for 3 readings, Porpoise Bay Harbor Regulation Amendment Bylaw 49405, 2025. Move.
458-4.
I went yes, thank you, page 67. Blasting Regulation Bylaw 458-4. Thank you, Councillor Bell. Seconded, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Now, page 69. That, I won't repeat it. That's bylaw 49405, 2025. Motion. Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Second, me. All in favor? Carried. Getting there. The page 71, which is bylaw number 248-1, 2025 for 3 readings. First, second, all in favor? Carried. And then finally, on page 73, there's a report, which I think, so don't think there's any material changes to this report from what came to us at the committee of the whole. Thank you. So this is move the report. Okay, thank you. Seconded. All in favor of the report? Carried. And last but not least, bylaw 575-16, 2025 before us. This is on page 76. Everybody there? All in favor? Carried. Whew, good. Okay, some more exciting stuff. The minutes of October 8th, committee of, regular meeting of council. This is on page 78. Motion, please, to adopt. All in favor? Carried. Now we go to the meeting of October 15th. And I did have a question on this one. We made a motion, this is on page 81. We made a motion that was defeated, but that staff be directed to review and report on the recommendations presented by Raising Seashell. I think the minutes should reflect what those recommendations are. And so I did go back and look at the YouTube video. So I've printed them out, council. So my suggestion is that under the third bullet on page 81, we add we add bullet points, advocate to RCMP and Crown to target chronic offenders, ensure we have a good neighbor agreement, strengthen bylaw enforcement for nuisance and disorder, and encourage BC Housing to implement SEPDED and build a fence. So that's would be my proposed amendment to these minutes. Make that motion. Second, thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor McLaughlin.
It's nice to add detail to minutes, but I find when I want to add detail, we say, no, the minutes are supposed to be just the minutes. And we're not supposed to add that level of detail. So
Understood.
I think we should just keep it the way it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The reason I'm making the distinction is the motion actually references recommendations. So I'm wanting to make sure we're clear that we were voting on these recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Dahl. We'll have to get me a new microphone or, okay, so anything, any other discussions? Not, I'll take a motion as amended. Sorry, yeah. Okay, all in favor as amended? Opposed? Councillor McLaughlin? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. October 22nd on page 86. This is the meeting, again, the procedural meeting. And this is for us for adoption, folks. Moved, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. All right, council, then go to the SCRD reports. Who's going to start? Councillor Toth.
I guess I'll start it off and Councillor Inkster can fill in whatever I miss. Only thing really to report is the pre-budget meeting for the SCRD. It was on October 27th, 28th. There's not a lot specific to report out from that meeting. It was just sort of an initial introduction to the things that might be coming. The agenda is all on the website. Though the only thing I did want to raise out of it is actually something that the Coast Reporter did a really good article on. Staff are looking at starting to develop 50-year asset management plans for water services. both regional water service as well as North and South Pender. And what they're seeing through these projections, you know, how long a pipe in the ground is supposed to last, treatment plants, pumping stations, all of this equipment, is that we're sort of okay for the next like 20, 25 years. But that in sort of the second half of that plan, the asset replacement costs are just unsustainably astronomical, I think is the only way to put it. And I was quoted as saying it was sobering, and I think it really is, because the graph that the Coast Reporter shared showed reserve balances sort of, working along until they got to the second half of the plan and then crossing the zero threshold and going negative, which means there isn't going to be enough money in reserves sort of under current funding plans to cover capital replacement. And so there was a bit of discussion at the meeting about, how much is enough. Staff are going to continue to work on developing these plans, tightening things up. We're not going to necessarily be able to, for sure, guarantee grant funding. Some part of this is going to be paid for by loans in the future. Some part of it's going to be paid for by, money in the bank, so to speak. And so the staff recommendations were to increase the water, not the user fees, the parcel taxes, by $90 per year in each of the next 3 years to sort of get started on funding. And as a committee, we discussed the intersection between sustainable service delivery into the future and also trying to manage the costs right now. And until we know a little bit more about these water capital plans, the committee was, really asked staff to go forward and look at only a $45 increase to start putting away while they finalize and shore up these capital plans. Pipes in the ground, the work that needs to be done is not going to get cheaper over time for sure. But yeah, and it's going to be crazy expensive in the coming years, decades. Approximately $600 million worth of assets in the ground that will need to be replaced over the next 50 years. So that's really the only thing I wanted to highlight. I think the Coast Reporter actually did a really good job covering that particular issue. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Inkster?
Yeah, thank you. That was the piece that I was going to touch on a little bit. Chair Toth and myself have a really cool graph that we could provide to council about the cost increase. I'm sure Councillor Toth can send it really quickly if need be, as he's done before. But it's a really cool graph for council to look at in terms of future costs in the water area. Although it's interesting when you look at the figures, of that expenditure, sadly, in one sense, I look around the room and I don't know how many of us will be here when they start looking at those larger costs again. But we always need to plan for the future. We all know what Sechelt sewer costs, how they exponentially grow over a number of years in order to meet not only better treatment, but also to provide more treatment for our community. So those are the costs of infrastructure. The other ones I wanted to mention, the other subjects that were brought up there was the community rec capital funding update about what we will or may need to do going forward for continuing to fund the rec centers, because as I've mentioned at this table and as I mentioned at the regional district, a number of debts over the next number of years, including here, will be retired. So what do you do now with how you look after your assets, and how do you continue to pay for those assets through taxation, parcel tax, etc. And that was a fairly good discussion, and one that I think the regional district, I didn't know this, but they all call me the rec park guy, even though we aren't in the parks function. But I love those discussions as I do at this table. So anyway, it's documents are available to this council. It's a great discussion about future costs of providing rec facilities for our families on the Sunshine Coast. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Did either of you want to talk about the AAP? Anything?
I can. I don't have the information immediately in front of me, I'm sorry, but the AAP process for the Langdale Wellfield is currently open. So the SCRD is looking to borrow money to do the Langdale Wellfield construction project down in the ferry terminal, basically the ferry terminal parking lot. Yes, that AAP process is open right now. Anybody who's opposed to the borrowing for the project needs to submit a form back to the regional district corporate officer. I don't have the date in front of me. I'll have it before we finish
Sorry, yeah.
council reports.
Yeah.
But yeah, you only need to return a form if you're opposed to the borrowing for that particular water project. And one thing that's different from other AAPs is the option to mail a form in has been removed, because at the time Canada Post was still on a wide open strike. And so you couldn't mail anything at the time. So the forms can be delivered by email, or you can basically phone and make an appointment to deliver it in person, or staff are willing to work with you to come up with a way to get the form back. They just couldn't promise Canada Post. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Okay, Councillor McLaughlin, how about council reports? And then we'll go to Councillor Rowe and balance it out with Councillor Bell. Come back this way.
Yeah, I just wanted also to comment on, I saw the chart that was in the paper that talked about long-term planning and I always think, Seashell is a big part of the water of the population and the consumption and the requirements that are required for infrastructure. So rather than just project growth with a line and the amount of infrastructure we have, I think it behooves us to try and think of alternative ways, sustainable ways of designing for infrastructure, water infrastructure, sewage infrastructure, different than what we do now. Because I think in 50 years, we will do things quite differently. As an example, I think we should be having requirements for places to have residential places, even commercial places, collect their rainwater. No doubt they can use that for toilets. If they're not using that in the future, then we must be crazy. So I think we should look at alternative ways to meet those demands and requirements. And also, as a planner and a population projector, we don't really know what the future is going to be for this place in 50 years, what the population will be, what its economy will be. But we do know whatever we have has to be sustainably done. So, it's nice to be enthusiastic, but in terms of charging and getting ahead on this, but I think it's important not to charge the current generation for stuff that's way in the future either, because you really don't know. That's a lot of assumptions there. I don't even know what they are. On another side of things, attended the mall with the kids at Halloween with some other councillors and the mayor. Big turnout, even though there was a big game on. I was surprised at the turnout, and it was a lot of fun. It was nice to see the kids. They're so adorable, and we don't get to see them together very often. So it's having an older population here. It's really lovely to see all those kids and the families too come out and do all that. I've been attending Elder College. Not that I am getting elderly, but there's a lot more elderly people than me there. But it was about housing with Kelly Foley. And so that was 3 sessions and very, very interesting work, getting people really excited about community building and supporting seniors and, brainstorming. And so I think there'll be some more good information coming from that, from Kelly, no doubt. So just want to give Kelly an appreciation for doing that. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Not too much to report. Councillor Shepherd and I did have a follow-up meeting that came out of our UBCM meeting, which is always good to see when something actually comes out of some follow-up from UBCM. Anyways, well, while we were at UBCM, we had a meeting with the ECOM people, the 911 people, because we have heard a lot through the safety committee and through my discussion with First Nations. Even we all have the same experiences around the non-emergency line and response times and service levels and such. And so we had a meeting with them, and one of our asks was to pull some statistics for the Sunshine Coast, which they have tried to do. And I need to understand a couple things before I'll report out next time on it, because I have some questions that I wouldn't be able to answer. So anyways, that was appreciated. And I've just been sitting on the steering committee for the community action team and doing some work with that group as well. That's about it.
Okay,
for
thank you.
tonight.
Counselor Bell.
Okay. So first thing was the October the 30th was the community, was that the right date? Yeah, I mean, the community safety meeting, which is a regrouping, I guess, is a community safety committee that has been in place. And it was, what it ended up being is a number of members of the community turned out after the BC Housing announcement and spoke about their concerns and had an opportunity to speak. And that was the first and start of the dialogue around what is happening, how people are feeling about this, and how we'll continue to work through this process. So I do want to, again, thank you people for coming out. I thought it was hopefully a start of informing people what's happening. And that is one of the things that I had certainly said as the chair of the Community Safety Committee, that we're going to work to be much better at communicating around what we're doing, what the process is going to be, and so on. So I just wanted to reiterate that again. We know how important this is for the community. We know it's on people's minds. And I just want to acknowledge that again tonight, that this is just the start of the dialogue and the conversations and the process. The next is just around, I had a tour today with Councillor Shepherd and Councillor Rowe of the Building Together project that's happening in the, well, you can't help but miss it. It's an amazing building, but right near the food bank and right in that area, phenomenal building. You can just envision what it's going to be. It's going to be filled with natural light. It's going to be a beautiful building, and it's going to be really provide the service that's needed for women who have been through domestic abuse situations, 35 units. But the other thing that's really great to think about this particular, I'm going to call it a hub of a community. It's also going to have the food bank. It's going to have a commercial kitchen, and it's going to have a lot of the programs and services that Community Services offers at this point. And they are actually an incredible nonprofit that offers so many services to people of our community. So I think that will be a great opportunity to bring more people in and have that as a hub, as a very important part that we can be very proud of in this community. So that was pretty exciting, I thought, today. I attended Halloween as well. I was later. I understand that Councillor McLaughlin was dressed to the nines. I'm sorry I missed that, but you got a picture? Good, yeah. And it was just great to see the community out. I mean, just the rows and rows of people walking down the street in terms of families, kids, all ages. That is when it's just so exciting to be part of a community. So I would really enjoyed seeing the number of people out. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, yes, Coco Chanel put in an appearance at Halloween. Counselor Shepherd.
I attended, well, most of council, actually, the first item is I missed the community association meeting, so I apologize to them later for that. And on the 29th, all council had a session with Ron Poole, who was appointed by the ministry to sort of help council work more cohesively together. Did a very interesting training sort of team building exercise. And I think the result of that is that if we act independently, we will not be as efficient, which I thought was a really interesting message, and it was verified by this exercise. So that's something that we have to remember. Also, something very interesting from that meeting, the facilitator asked council, how effective do you think council has been in, apart from all of the sort of difficulties that we've had over the last 3 years. And the mayor said out of 10, 10 being very efficient, 1 being poor, and the mayor said 7, and I had exactly the same figure in my head. So I just thought that was an interesting item to sort of pop out of that. Yeah, we had the community safety meeting. I think on the same day, you know, it was the first chance for the community to sort of react to the BC housing announcement. And one of the unfortunate things about that, I think that was great for the community to sort of feedback everything that has been pent up. I think unfortunately for the for that committee members, they really wanted to talk about the delegation that had come forward the previous week to council. And that discussion sort of got smothered, so they couldn't provide their feedback. So I thought that was unfortunate, but we'll just have to keep trying to address that issue because their proposals are very important. We had a meeting the following day with a developer, Generis Properties, who have a apartment building project on Shorncliffe, getting very close to building permit. So they just wanted to give us some feedback on the process. And this week, yeah, the meeting today on the social services building was interesting. To go up to the 4th floor, obviously the building itself, as Councillor Bells mentioned, but also to take a look in the entire area and the difficulties that they're going to face. So I thought the director, Catherine Leach, our executive director, will have some very good ideas about moving forward, and I'm really looking forward to her email. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Toff.
Thank you. Found the answer to that question. The AAP forms have to be back by 4:30 PM Monday, November 24th. And that's if you're opposed to the borrowing of up to $13 million to be repaid over a 20-year term. It's scrd.ca/AAP for the information, as well as the newspapers, of course. There is a grant application that's been submitted for up to $7 million. So that would cut the borrowing requirement in half if it is successful. In terms of council business, I missed the library board meeting last week because we had our conflicting session. But the library chair and the library director were gracious enough to give myself and Director Gabius, who also had to miss the library board meeting, sort of a catch up. So they've approved their preliminary budget numbers for submission to council. Reminded them that they need to come to council to present that information to us. So I'm not gonna, spoil their presentation for them. But yeah, they are looking at a substantial increase, and they've got to also go to the regional district and the Sechelt Nation for approval. Other than that, got a couple things coming up in the next few days that I look forward to reporting out on at the next council meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah. Thank you. Just a few things to mention. I was with yourself at the senior center now a couple weeks ago now with on the immigration issue, and there was a good turnout and some good information that was available there, and obviously some good food. Got to get the recipe on those small desserts that were served there. Although I probably can't replicate it. But it was good to be part of that with almost probably 150 people, I'm assuming, and to have some discussions and be there for a while for all the entertainment. Wanted to also mention that I was at the Sunshine Coast Foundation sort of presentation.
Appreciation event.
appreciation on the work that they do and recognition of quietly of all the people that contribute without identifying necessarily. As with the previous mention I had of the seniors event, that's a good group, and I call this the Foundation Good Work. So it's with me all about the good of those two groups. I wanted to also mention that while the safety committee was going on, a number of councilors there, I was at the accessibility committee to receive the final report of the accessibility committee, and I think that's coming to council. And it has a lot of recommendations for all three governments. And I think in some areas, Seashell's done well with with our audible crosswalks and our letdowns. We identified that as an issue a number of years ago, and I think we've made some good progress, but there's always more we could do for those who have hearing, sight, and mobility issues in our community with an aging population. It's all about being inclusive in our community. So we'll see how those come forward to this council and hope this council can support it. A couple of other things. Halloween in the mall was great. Councillor Bell sent me a picture that I asked for of myself as Homelander and a small child in a mask, so I can probably show it. It's a Spider-Man, so it's a really cool, cute picture, I think, of me and one of our community members. But yeah, it's true. There was hundreds of people in the mall that night, maybe because it was going to rain, but also it's a good place to go. And I was glad to see a number of council members there to hand out candy to the kids. I just wanted to also, as I finish, just recognize Councillor Bell for her leadership and professionalism and her commitment to chair the safety committee and to take on some tough issues, not only a couple of weeks ago and moving forward, because I do notice in discussions with the emails that we received, there's other issues that people want to discuss. So I wanted to recognize Councillor Bell for that work. And I wanted to say to Councillor Bell that if she wants to give up for the next 6 months chairing the COW to focus on those important issues for our community, I'm totally prepared to step up and take your COW chair out of your hands so that you can focus on the safety committee. Thanks.
Cow chair, all right. Committee of
Committee
the
of the whole,
whole.
yeah.
Yes.
COW, yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you. Okay, it's been 3 weeks since our last council meeting. So first of all, stop me if I mention that I'm happy and want to acknowledge the owners of Lighthouse Pub who've agreed to renew the paddling club's use of their space. Real shout out to the owners for doing that. It means that the paddlers won't have to relocate and the neighbors in Edgewater will be happy. So a good outcome for everybody. Since the last meeting on the 15th, I think I counted right, we've had 3 Meet the Mayor sessions. It's a great chance, and council, you're always welcome. There are usually 5 or 6 people that attend. Topics range from everything from, guess what, the BC Housing announcement to who's going to win the baseball game. Attended the Sunshine Coast Foundation appreciation event, as Councillor Inkster mentioned. People's Choice Awards was well attended in Gibsons as usual. Congratulations to all the nominees. It's great fun to see so much enthusiasm and optimism on the parts of our business community. I did make it to the SCAF meeting late, the Sechelt Community Associations Forum. I was suitably chastised for being late, and I deserved it. Been interviewed, as I think everybody knows, by CBC Global and City TV on crime and safety issues, as well as the Keep Families Together initiative and the challenges that employers are facing finding staff. Councillor Inkster mentioned the multicultural Thanksgiving dinner they told me it was 180 people, Councillor Inkster. Great evening. Thanks to that group for organizing it. And also the night before was Diwali, where a big shout out to Sushma Das and Sarah Dillon, who put together a great celebration. So both nights were at the Senior Center. I got very well fed and we don't forget the senior center. It's a very well-run organization and going from strength to strength. Leave that. Oh, and I guess I should just speak. I engaged with the police this past weekend on a very tragic event. I won't go into the details, but sadly, I know the family connected to the event. And I think what comes to me most is how important it is to keep in mind that people may be smiling, but inside they're struggling. And so my heart goes out to the family, as I'm sure all of you agree with me on that or share that with me. Of course, the biggest activity over the last 3 weeks has been engaging with and responding to questions about the recent criminal acts in Sechelt and, of course, the province's announcement that they purchased 2 properties in the village. I don't think I'll go into the detail, but both of these, the lack of safety we're feeling, and the well-founded fear that our residents have about the locations that are being proposed are things that really we need. I know council's on board to address them, but we need stronger action. I think we need to challenge the other orders of government to change their approaches, because frankly, the bottom line is we're all entitled to peaceful and quiet enjoyment of our homes. And so I'll leave it there and have lots more to say in the days and weeks to come, I'm sure. Okay, so council, with that, we go to page 88, which is the letter from Minister Honorable Christine Boyle to us regarding SMUH, small-scale multi-unit housing. This is before us, I guess, for information. Is there anything that council wanted to reference? Councillor Shepherd.
Thanks. Through the chair, I wonder if I could direct something to Director of Planning. There's mention of, in terms of expediting development files, there's mention of standardized housing designs. And I wonder if we have any that the district sort of a pre-approved in order to help speed things through the process. Thanks.
Mr. Allen?
Yes, thank you. No, we don't have any pre-approved housing plans to give out or whatnot. It is something that has been talked a lot by the province, but I haven't seen a fit how that might work for us to date. A lot of our single-family homes are being built on existing parcels in Sandy Hook these days and require a development permit for form and character. And there's a lot of design around the slope that is required for homes. There are certain prototypes for fourplex units that are available, but we don't ourselves have anything to distribute or share at this point.
Okay, great. Other questions? I guess I'm quite concerned about this letter because to me, it's another example of how are we going to afford to implement a lot of what they're saying? And I mean, this around the council table, we've talked about the need for infrastructure to match the density that's being proposed. And I'm wondering, it's one thing, just this is before us for information, but I guess I just encourage staff to take on board that I, for one, certainly want to see a lot more, and I'm sure others on council do, but how is this going to work in practice? Because I really find it hard to just be told this is what you will do and not be told how they're going to support paying for it. Please.
And just a comment to tag on to that, actually, and one of the things that's right now a bit of a pain point for people that are looking to build in not our downtown core is fire flow, which is something that we both don't have jurisdiction over, nor necessarily a lot of resources. And so, a lot of those improvements are going to have to be funded by development once it's established where these upgrades and things are needed to happen. And the amount of infrastructure planning, forecasting, whatever that's being downloaded onto municipalities and regional districts without consideration for existing workload. Like, we're in the middle of an OCP update. You know, subdivision servicing bylaw, you know, all of these things are on the work plan to be worked on. And so where does integrating these requirements come in on the work plan for staff? And it's, for sure, it's a challenge. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Inkster?
Yeah, what I'm hoping happens and looking forward to, because it's happened before, not necessarily telling us to do this and do that without any funding, is for the feds to get together with the province like they used to do in the 80s and 90s and build some housing specifically for needy people in our community that includes seniors. So they did that. They did a lot of it in the Vancouver area, not necessarily in our area, but there was some housing built in those years. I'm sure the Binnacle thing was part of those proposals then, to pump money into communities rather than to tell us what to do, to support our need for housing for particular parts of our population. Thanks.
Thanks. Counselor Bell? Whoops, it's off.
Turned it off.
It's off.
Turned it off.
I just turned it off. Thank you. One of the things I think with this, you know, this document, this letter, I mean, there has to be, I agree, there has to be a way of municipalities giving feedback other than, I mean, the advocacy piece is really important. But when they roll these things out, the biggest thing that I find in many of these reports is they're great, but really, how do you operationalize them? And that really becomes the question back to whether it's the feds or the province. And so what is our voice? I mean, there are some municipalities that are speaking very loudly right now about this, and some are pushing back and say, we're not doing it. So I just guess that at some point in this conversation, I don't think we're on the list of, I call the hit list of those municipalities or cities right now that are being giving numbers as to how much you should be billed. And I think that's a good thing at this point, but I do feel that when they roll these kind of things out, there has to be a means for us to get back in terms of feedback. Maybe it's UBCM, I don't know. But I think that's what we're saying. There's some of these things that are going to be very hard to operationalize. And really, you need to start talking to the people that are on the ground that have to implement this and the taxpayers that have to pay for this. So it's just a general comment, but, you know, we've got to continue to advocate for that.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I think the focus is really where people have jobs and need housing, like the major cities, right? This is obviously going to be a focus, and that doesn't really describe us. But for us, I think what we can do is overlay where we have infrastructure, where there's zoning that is, you know, appropriate, and try and come up with the low-hanging fruit areas that we have and try and use those, because I mean, those are the best places to start. Because if you just think you're going to blanket do it everywhere, you're not. They want you to use the infrastructure you have. So if you're expecting families, look close to schools, right? And things like that. So I think there is a way to prioritize development. If we ever got so busy and we want to prioritize, definitely, you know, we could say like, these are the places that are best, where the water pressure is great, et cetera. Transit is good, whatever. I think that's the approach I would take. And so don't think that, put your hands up in the air, go, I don't know, where do I start? What do I do? You just start with what you've got. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's nothing else. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Seconded, all in favor, we are adjourned. And that means it's time.